In this module, we're going to teach you exactly what you need to know in order to figure out how to get around and deal with the gatekeepers that you encounter when prospecting. This area is critical for you to at least have some knowledge, some logic, and a game plan for how to operate, because you can realistically spend almost 50% or more of your cold calling time dealing with gatekeepers. And a gatekeeper naturally falls into the role of the enemy, meaning you as a salesperson and the gatekeeper as a receptionist, or the role that she plays in the or he or she plays in the organization, will naturally be on the other side of the table. You all will have opposing objectives, and because of that, you naturally fall into the role of enemies of one another. But although gatekeepers typically have a tremendous amount of knowledge, they will know sometimes how the organization is structured, who does what, and who the contacts are that you need to connect with. They might have knowledge about projects and initiatives. They might have knowledge about the existing processes and maybe some challenges that are going on. So if you're able to turn this enemy into an ally, you can immediately see improvements in your results. And we're going to show you exactly how to do that here. Before we get going, let's outline a few different types of gatekeepers that you can encounter. And this is important because each type has different characteristics and can often be dealt with in different ways and have different expectations for how they're going to deal with you. The first category that we'll look at is a front desk receptionist, and this is someone that you can picture actually in a reception area of maybe an office. Maybe they work in a lobby and they answer the phone. And they also do some other activities like checking in people that arrive at the office that are guests of employees that work there. They might receive packages from delivery individuals frequently throughout the day. They may answer phones and those are some of the calls that you might be on. Now, because there's so much going on, things are very chaotic with this type of individual. Their day is very fast paced, and so you need to know that, and you can often think about these individuals because they often, if you start asking them some questions, they might put you on hold, and they might get rid of you fairly quickly. So let's think about what this individual knows, and the reality is that they often are knowledgeable about the organization, at least the organization maybe at the office that they work at. And the reason why is because they might have to get packages sent to particular people. They might have to check in guests, as I already mentioned, for particular people. And because of that, they might know who is who. So if you ask them some organizational questions and you don't know who to speak to, they might know who to connect you with if you deal with them in the right way. Or should I say they'll know they might know who to connect you with, and they might do that if you deal with them in the right way. This individual, although, will have a decently high focus on screening you out, meaning they will be assigned with the direction of don't let cold callers come in, or salespeople, don't let them through. Just in the same way that they get training of, when UPS shows up, you need to do this and put the packages here. They'll get training on, okay, when salespeople call, say this or ask them that. So this type of individual will typically be considered. This is someone who will do some filtering to make sure it makes sense to let you through, and they will also be trained on how to deal with you. Just like you're going through training right now on how to deal with them, they often will be given at least some sort of direction on things to ask to get rid of you. And we'll talk about some of the things they'll say later in this module. Another type of gatekeeper are switchboard operators. Now, you might not know this, but these are just people that are hired and responsible for transferring you to the person that you're supposed to connect with. And you might not know what type of environment this person sits in, but a lot of times, well, most often, they're not at a receptionist area. They're sitting in a room, and all they do is take incoming calls. They could even be actually outsourced to some sort of call center. Because all they do is deal with incoming calls, their environment's a little less chaotic. They're not multitasking as much, so that you can actually get a little bit more time from them to ask them questions. Although, while that sounds great, they actually have less knowledge of the organization. All they do is route calls. So typically, they're not going to know who's in what department. All they will know is what information they have access to, which is probably some sort of directory in some sort of software application that they're logged into. These are the types of individuals that if you don't have a name of an individual, they won't know who to connect you with. And a title typically won't do anything. Even knowing they almost seem amiable and willing to help, they just don't have that knowledge. So they're available, but only so limited. And they really won't focus on screening you out at all. You could call them back 10 times, and they're not going to, meaning asking for 10 different people, and they're not going to care. Their job is just to put you through. So they're not going to screen you at all, and they won't get defensive and protective. They're just basically, as they're labeled, they're switchboard operators. So some characteristics there, and I guess the takeaway there is don't be too scared of them, and then also don't look for too much help from them. Another category are executive assistants. So these are individuals that aren't at the receptionist area. These are people that are sitting in an office area. They're part of a department. For example, if you're calling into IT or finance, there might be an administrative assistant, an executive assistant, that is assigned to that department. And maybe they might sit next to the executive and be their assistant. That's why they're called an executive assistant. But they might be responsible for fielding requests and doing duties for the whole department. They have a medium level of chaotic environment, meaning the phone's not ringing all day. They don't have delivery people coming in. It's more of a normal office environment, but they might have a lot of requests coming in from different directions. But it's at a medium level. It's not going to be as bad as a front desk receptionist. These individuals, and this is the important thing to take away here, these individuals you typically have a very high level of knowledge. And you wouldn't think so because you think, well, they're a gatekeeper or they're an assistant. But these people often know extensive details about the organization. They might have deep knowledge about processes and systems that are being used, vendors that they're doing business with. They might know about current initiatives and projects and challenges. These individuals might sit in on different meetings to take notes and might actually be looked at for an opinion on decisions that are being made. So you really don't doubt the level of influence and power that these individuals have. And quite honestly, when you can't get a hold of the key person, the key decision maker, and they have an executive assistant, they're a great person to work with and to build rapport with and to get them on your side. These individuals will do a medium level of screening, meaning the front desk receptionist, they might just try to block out everybody. I mean, if you sound like a salesperson, but you're actually delivering a truck of money, they're going to say, we're not interested, right? I mean, they use very little logic and reasoning and just screen everybody out. A executive assistant isn't just going to pass anybody through to the person that they report to. So they will do some screening, but the good thing about executive assistants is they actually typically will use a little bit more thoroughness and diligence in terms of who they screen out. They'll ask you some good questions, so they won't just say we're not interested and without even hearing what you have to say. They might try to look at what you're doing. They might try to send you to the correct person if you're calling somebody who might not be appropriate. So they will screen. They will do some screening, but it's actually more in a professional way, and sometimes the screening they do is more appropriate. Meaning, if it really doesn't make sense for you to get through, they'll let you know. And so that's executive assistants. The last category that we're going to look at are automated phone trees, and these are actually the appropriate label is called auto attendants. And these are those automated menus that answer the phone and give you a list of options. And these are becoming more and more common as technology advances and as companies look to decrease costs. These are actually probably these can often be more difficult than actually dealing with a human, just because they're extremely time consuming to try to get through, and sometimes if you don't know exactly who you're trying to reach, these won't do you any good. These are extremely common in larger organizations, and you can often spend a lot of time really trying to get through to a person. So those are some types of gatekeepers. If you can kind of separate those and realize which one you're dealing with when at that particular moment, that can help you to use some of the tactics that we're going to talk about in this module. One tactic that is important, just